Um, help me, Lord, today. Help me, Lord, to articulate and show how you're just moving, man. You are moving, and how these people are just so advanced spiritually than we are. And Lord, here we are a people that has everything, and yet we have nothing. And there are people that have nothing, and yet they have everything, Lord, because all they have is you, and you are more than enough. Father, help us, Father. Please help us, Lord God, to... I just pray, Father God, that what you've done in my heart, Lord, I could articulate, and I could, spread some of that to these guys, Lord. Just speak to us, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. So we have a bunch of people. I get texts now every day from about 5 or 6, maybe even 8 African pastors and different people. I think you'll be proud of what we did as we get through this. But I know my man, my new adopted son, a kid named Kevin. He's probably watching, so can we yell out, "Hey, Kevin"? Hey, Kevin! And I know that Rick said he'll be watching, and he'll probably be watching later. Let's say hello to Rick. Hey, Rick. Say you could do better than that. Hey, Rick. And Vincent in Uganda said he'll be watching, so let's say, hey, Vincent. And to all the other guys in Africa, I don't know who's going to be watching, but there's quite a few. And I tell you, we have a lot of people praying for us from over there. And so let's get into this, huh? So are they going to move, and I'm going to?
You're just seeing it too. They're moving.
All right. Is it going to move on here too?
You have to move.
All right. First slide. So here we are. We go to Uganda because we went to Uganda first. So there's a little bit of a family reunion there on the, I guess, is it on your left? That's me, Rick, and there's Vincent. Vincent is stellar, man. I'm telling you, I can't. Let me just say this before we get started. So I was with two ministries that we support out of this church, our mission board. You guys support. Of course, Vincent's and New Hope Cathedral that he has, New Hope Ministries. And, of course, Rick with the ISA. These are two of the best that I've ever seen, ever. I'm so proud that we're connected with these guys. What God is doing is phenomenal. It's over the moon. And, I hope I can articulate that. So these two pictures next to it, just wanted to show you, there's a market. They're all over the place. Eat real good over there. Everything's organic. Everything's grown. And everything's, there's nothing frozen. There's none of that stuff. They pick it. They eat it. They kill it. They eat it. That's just the way it is. And because I'm a motorcycle guy, I had to take a picture of a motorcycle because there's about 20 billion motorcycles in Kenya and in Uganda, and they are berserk. I would never, ever ride a bike in either one of them countries. Them guys are off the hook. Next slide. So this is Vincent's church, what it looks like today. Look at that. This is a guy that I don't even know how he does it. I don't know how he does it because they don't have money. They don't have money. But he's been building this church for 22 years. And they just keep doing. They just keep doing. So next slide. So we land, there's his lovely wife, Rebecca. She is awesome. She sends her love to all of you, but especially to my wife, Jody. The one in the middle, it says Science Lab. If you remember years back that we sent money for a science lab, unbeknownst to me, I thought we were just like putting stuff in the lab. No, we built the lab. So I didn't take a picture of the outside because I didn't realize. I just took a picture of that sign, But we built the whole building. The inside, the two pictures on my right are the inside. Now all the kids are, because it was during holiday. I was there on right after New Year's, so all the students are away. They are redoing that whole thing, so it looks kind of disheveled, but they're cleaning, doing stuff. But that's the lab you guys built, and it's pretty stellar, man. What they're able to accomplish over there. Next slide. So the conference starts. The one on the guy on the left you might recognize, the guy in the middle you might recognize, and the guy on the right you might recognize. This is the beginning. We did a thing for the youth ministry. So Vincent turned his hat on backwards because he tried to look cool, you know. And let me just say this. We landed Wednesday. Vincent picked us up. We were talking. I said, oh, man, I'm tired. He goes, yeah, me too. I said, yeah, how come? He says, well, we had an all-night prayer meeting Tuesday for the conference. 600 people showed up and prayed all night for the conference. 600 people showed up to pray for this conference all night. We have a prayer meeting on Tuesday mornings from 7 to 8. We're lucky we have 8 people for 1 hour. They prayed all night, 600 people. These are just random shots just to let you know we were actually doing stuff. Unbeknownst to some of you who thought I was on a safari and, you know, just hung out in Africa for 3 weeks. So here's the youth conference. This starts. Next slide. It's starting, and just dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of young people. Incredible what God did. Incredible how God was moving. They're so hungry for the Lord. I'm telling you, they are so hungry for the Lord. Next slide. There's your boy preaching, and that's an altar call that I did, and I don't know, 150 people responded to the altar call, 150 young people. They're just so hungry for the Lord over there. It's just incredible. What God is doing in the young people is just incredible. Now, this is something really cool, which I'll talk now. I'll wait till later. But the whole time I was there, because Rick's never been there. Now, we've been supporting Vincent for a long time. He knew Vincent. We met him at the same time in Elam around 1997. And so Rick knew him, but Rick's been in Africa. He's all over Africa, but he never was in Uganda. He knew that we supported Vincent. And the whole way this thing happened is, so Vincent had, somehow him and Rick had got together and were speaking. And every year for the last 10, 15 years, maybe 10 years, Vincent has always asked me to come over and to be part of his leadership conference that they have January 2nd every year. And quite frankly, I just blow him off because I didn't feel like going back. You know, I wasn't going there. We had a lot to do with the ministry center next door. There was a lot going on here, trying to build the ministry here. And I blew him off. About 2 years ago, though, the Lord started speaking to me and says, Frank, you know, it's time to get back in the saddle there, boy, and start, you know, doing what you're called to do. But if I'm being really honest, was disobedient. You know what I mean? Because I had opportunities to go to a lot of places, but I just didn't go. And so Rick had called me up and said, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah. Me and Vincent hooked up. Vincent asked me to come and speak in his leadership conference. And because he was going to Kenya anyway, and he said, hey, you know, is there anything you would want me to bring for Vincent? You know, I'm going over there. Is there anything you want me to bring to Vincent? And I said, yeah, how about me? And he said, really? I said, yeah. I said, I know Vincent. All I have to do is tell him I'm coming. And when I wrote him and said, hey, Vincent, you mind if I come with Rick to your conference? He wrote W-A-W, whoa, 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 about 100 times. Like he was so excited that I was there. You know, me and him are really good friends. And so that's how I got there, basically. And And then when I said to Rick, I said, you know, we've been supporting the ISA at this church, in case you don't know, for about 3 years now. And I said, hey, Rick, because Rick thought maybe I was just going to go to Uganda and come back. And I said, hey, Rick, man, what do you think if I tag along with you? Because I really like to see what you're doing. And let me just say this. So I've always considered Rick, since I met him years ago, my little brother. And everything Rick touches, man, turns to gold. I mean, God just uses this man. Now, I know you guys, and I know how New Yorkers are. We think, you know, we're like just so full of it. So you can see somebody like Rick, you know, he's always happy. He's always positive. He smiles a lot. And you might think, that guy's like quirky. He's whatever you think. He's the most dynamic man I've ever seen out on the mission field. He controls the narrative. When we were there, diplomats, dignitaries, bishops, everybody came to see him. We spoke to the head of the sports whatever of Kenya. We went and met with her because of Rick. I mean, what he's doing, and you'll see, is over the moon. I cannot stress it enough. Not just because he's my little brother, but because it's a fact. I've seen it with my own eyes. And also I want to say what Vincent is doing, it's short of miraculous, man. And so just keep that in the back of your head. And I'm saying that because the next time both of them come here, I want you to know it's the best soil, either one of them, that I've ever seen. And I've been to a lot of places and a lot of things I've seen ministry-wise. Those two are the best I've ever seen. And so that's good soil. Pray about it, sow into it. It's over the moon. Next slide. So this is just more of the same. The conference, we're being used, we're being ministered to. Now, when we got there, the theme of the conference was the storm for 2025. And I'm like, me and Rick were talking, I'm like, man, that's kind of depressing, man. Like that, the storm of, you know, facing the storm. And I'm like, so we kind of changed the whole atmosphere of this conference. Like I said, I had given Mike a little sign years ago, and it says it's not about it's not about getting rid of the storm. It's about learning how to dance in the rain. And and that's the approach that I took. I approached that, hey, storms are going to come. And okay, they come, but we're not going to focus on the circumstance. We're going to focus on the solution. Christ is in the storm. Christ walks on the water. Christ, you know, all that stuff. And so we kind of turned this whole conference, and it was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, I'm still getting messages from guys how they have a whole new outlook and a whole new thing, and it was just, God was really using us, and it was pretty glorious. Next slide, please. So again, this is just more of the same. Their worship team. Let me tell you about worship. You know, you've heard me. I'm going to beat this horse down until I die. But, you know, we have people that show up late for worship. We have people that don't even come to worship. They just, and I got to say this. It's because that's a very self-centered, selfish way of thinking. Because you're coming to hear the word because you want to get fed. But what are you giving to God? You know, what do you got? What else do we have to offer the Lord except our worship? And by the time we get through this whole thing, I hope that your whole attitude changes on how grateful we should be. How grateful we should be. Their worship, their gratitude, their praise is over the moon. We can't even touch them. They kept talking to me about America. I said, you don't want to be American. You don't want what we have. We will ruin what you got. You have everything. We have nothing. And I kept reiterating that. So on a typical day of the conference, the worship team, the conference would start at 10. The worship team would show up at 8. Not to practice, like, you know, our worship team shows up early because they're practicing. They would show up for pre-worship. At 8 o'clock, there'd be 150, 200 people that showed up to worship before worship. Every day. Every day. Now, these are people that don't have nothing compared to us. Nothing materialistically. And all they can do is thank the Lord, praise Him for how awesome He is, praise Him for what He has done in their lives. Just glorify Jesus. It is humbling. It was convicting. It was so incredible to watch, to see it. And so they would just show up. They just show up. Next slide. Next slide, please. And then there was the kids. So these are all Vincent's grandchildren. They are a special bunch of little kids. And old Grandpa Vincent, they got him twisted. They got him wrapped around his finger. I've never even seen anybody. They don't raise their voice. Ain't nobody getting spanked. Ain't none of that stuff. The kids, Grandpa, they're just on them, man, all the time. The house, there's always 25 people in his house. There's kids running all over the place. There's the women, they constantly are cooking in the kitchen, constant. And it's ours. Nobody owns nothing. The only fences they put up is to keep the goats in. The only fences they have up is to keep the cows, or what I have, you have. Pretty stellar. This lady, next slide. So this lady, some of you, about 15 or so years ago, I was in Uganda, and this lady came. We bought her a cow. And this lady came and kneeled at my feet and was almost like wanted to kiss my feet, because we bought her a cow. She thought I bought her a cow. I was so humble. I said, please get up. Please, please get up. I said, Vincent, get her up. So we're coming back from the airport. Vincent's driving us from the airport in Entebbe. We're coming in to Matuga, where he lives. And he says, hey, Frank, you see that house over there? I said, yeah. He goes, remember that lady that kneeled? That's her house. I said, that's her house? When I seen her, she lived in a shack, and I mean barely a shack, and we gave her a cow. From that cow, she became an entrepreneur from this cow. Let me just see something. Yeah. She ended up raising the cow and working the cow for a while, but cows are hard. Cows are hard. And if you remember, some of us, how many of us bought pigs? Remember when Vincent started with the pigs? You guys remember that? Not all of you, but. So listen, we got to start buying cows and pigs again, by the way. He's still doing it, and you'll see. So this lady, she comes up to me in this conference and says, do you remember me? I don't remember, do I remember you? And Vincent there, see him smiling. So he said, Vincent said, that's the lady. That's her house. So from this cow, she sold the cow and she started raising pigs, because pigs are way easy. They eat anything and they have babies quick. Every time a pig gets pregnant, they have like 10 piglets. And then them piglets are ready to have babies in like 4 months or something like that. So now you have 10 piglets that can have 10 babies. And then within a year, you got hundreds of pigs. So she's selling pigs. On the worship team in Vincent Church is this young man, and he just graduated pre-med school. It's her son. From a cow. She put 3 other sons through college, and this son just graduated pre-med. She has her own house. Come on, man. It's out of the water. Blown out of the water. Next slide. So these two girls I met, some of you have come to a men's Bible study, you might know that we support these twins. Well, there they are. There's the two twins. We came back from a session, and Vincent said, Frank, come here. He calls me underneath the church because that's where the school is. And he says, I want you to meet somebody. So he takes me in the back there, and there's these two girls. I said, hi. And he goes, you know who they are? They always ask that question. And it's like, hey, you're from New York. Do you know John? I'm like, no. He goes, that's the twins that your men's Bible study supports. I was like, get out of here. Get out of here. Next slide. Can you play that, please?
Thank you, Adias Process. We are the twins, Nakato and Babidia. We really appreciate. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. May God bless your brother.
You're welcome. So the two twins said, thank you guys. Thank you guys for supporting them. And but you hear worship. See, we're underneath the sanctuary, so worship just never stops over there. It just does not stop. I'll tell you something, after every day, that you see how big that church is? It's something to think about. Again, I'm not trying to make anybody feel anything. I'm not comparing us to anything. But every service, when it was done, 100 people would stay, take all the chairs, stack them. They have little brooms that are this big. They would sweep out the entire sanctuary every day. They didn't have to. Nobody made them. Vincent didn't make them. They just love their church. They just love what God has done. They just love it so much. They are so grateful that they just can't help themselves. And it's their way to serve God and say thank you. They make us look really bad. Look what we got. Look what we got. We can't pick up a paper. Let's be honest. Next slide. So here you go. See this guy this guy this big with all the teeth? So his name is Ron. He now is the senior pastor of Vincent's church there. Vincent is the overseer because he's planted so many churches that we're all a part of, by the way. We're all a part of. I'll show you something in the future. So he's like a bishop. And there's a lot of bishops. Like Rick in Kenya, he meets with so many bishops, but so many of them are corrupt. So many of them are full of themselves. But Rick was so impressed with Vincent, man. He said, this guy is top-notch, stellar, that Rick wants to get involved with him. But anyway, years and years ago, that cow right there, we bought him that cow. He went to Vincent's church. He had nothing. He was struggling. We got him a cow. He still has the cow. And from that cow, God raised him up in such a way that he is now the senior pastor of that church of like 600 or whatever many people from a cow. Again, from a cow. That's Ron. He's awesome. He's my good friend, really good friend. This is Vincent's children. Last time I seen them, they were little. So that's Vincent. This kid on the end is his son. His son's name is Caleb. I don't know what the rest of the little girls' names are. But Caleb is something, and I'll get to him in a minute. Next slide. The lady on the lady by herself there. That's his second oldest daughter. When we took that picture, she wasn't feeling well, so I said, well, I want a picture of all of his kids, so that's his daughter too. There's Grandpa in the middle. You see that? That's constant. Like he has kids, they just love Pop, or whatever they call them. That's one of his granddaughters on with the pink dress. And then there's this lady. Next slide. This lady, her husband died of AIDS years ago. I met her also. She had nothing. Her husband died of AIDS. She has a couple kids. There was no hope for this lady whatsoever. We bought her a cow. from that cow, same thing. She raised the cow for a little while. And cows are hard, though. So she's the one that you've heard me say, she went from nothing to making $70 a month. $70 a month is a big deal when you have zero. And $70 a month is going to go a lot farther there than it would here. From that $70 a month, she also became an entrepreneur and realized that pigs are the way to go. She sold her cow, bought some pigs. Now she's a pig lady. Pig lady. And Miss Piggy. She has a I don't know, a bull pig and a sow. Is that the, I don't know how you call them. So she has them two that make babies, and she sells the babies. She now has a house. She now has a life. She sells pigs. Her life has changed. She's also the financer or the head trustee or the, what do we call it? The treasurer of Visage Church. Now, she's the treasurer of Visage Church. She was dead broke. She had nothing, zero, less than nothing. We bought her a cow. She now, God moved. She's now selling pigs like crazy. She's so good with money. Vincent has her on his staff. She now is the money lady for Visage Church. It's pretty awesome, right? You guys should be clapping for that stuff. Come on, man. Next slide. So some of us, and especially in the men's Bible study, we, if you might remember this picture. This was a church. Remember I showed you the wind blew the church over, and so Vincent, unbeknownst to me, Vincent, he built this church. And we put the windows. Remember we were raising money for windows, guys, remember? And so we raised some money, and we sent it, and we started taking collections. And so we were taking, the men's collection has gotten pretty stellar, if I do say so myself. And so we realized that we can easily support the twins, and what are we going to do with the extra money? So I got in touch with Vincent, and I asked the guys, and Vincent didn't know what we wanted. You know, he would do whatever we told him. I said, Vince, man, you know, support the kids, and then we trust you. Do whatever you're going to do with it, man. We trust you. So he does things like this. So this is another church plant that Vincent planted. You can see what it says, New Hope Church, Kalwanga. We drove up to there. It's about 50 miles from Vincent's, the big church. There's the inside of it. Pretty cool. Looking around. There's also, they already have a pastor. Also, if you remember, I told you guys about this medical building and facility that Vincent's trying to build. So we went and visited that. So this is it. Huh? Yeah. On this property, if you see that cesspool all the way on my right, that's the water for the local village. They'd come there every day, scoop out that, boil it. That's all they have. That's the water they drink. Vincent had dug a well there. They dug it by hand. It's 160 feet deep. It's this big around. They dug it by hand. The guy went down. At one point, he almost dropped dead because there was no oxygen. He ran out of oxygen. So what he did was he got a blow dryer and a long extension cord. And when he went down in the hole, he turned the blow dryer on and took the blow dryer down with him so it would have air. Hot air, right? But he's down there. I couldn't even imagine being 100 now. Just to give you perspective, the top of the steeple is 93 feet. It's 93 feet. You got to add another 80 feet, 70 feet on top of that steeple. They dug by hand with a bucket, and they pulled it up a bucket at a time until it hit water. Then they bricked the whole thing. It's over the moon. The well is dug. It will be used in the near future. But what happened was, because Vincent's so smart, is he realizes that they need at least $500,000 more to get that medical facility to where it needs to be. But in the meantime, in this area, there's hundreds of these little kids that, like from kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, the closest school is 5 miles. They have to walk, so they don't go. So they can use it as a school, because that's Vincent's thing, man. School. He said a long time ago, he said to me, he said, Frank, I could give these people 2 things. I can give them Jesus, and I can give them an education. And it's really important that they get educated there, right? So he's going to do this and on this piece of property. So I was like, dang, I remembered. How many of you remember a bunch of years ago, we bought 8 acres of land for Vincent. It cost $5,000. We raised the money, and we bought this property because they were going to farm it to pay to feed these. Any who raise your hand if you remember that? Yeah. So I was like, dang, Vincent. I said to him, Vince, I said, because and the farm flopped miserably. Like they realized that they couldn't grow nothing. It was really hard. They didn't get any crops. I said, hey, Vince. I said, that property we bought for you. I said, why don't you sell it, man? I said, just sell it. I said, the real estate has gone to the roof there. I said, use it. You're doing so many things. He said, Frank, that's where I built the church and the medical facility. I says, really? I says, well, 8 acres. Remember, we bought 8 acres. He said, 8 acres? No, you bought 38 acres. So we bought him 38 acres, not 8 acres. So now he builds this church on the property that this church bought. He's building this medical facility on the same property. Now, check it out. It gets better. So Rick, when I'm there, getting back to his son, Caleb. So we are, what did you want me to say?
It's going to be a school until.
Right. It's going to be a school, though, and with the medical, he's not losing vision for the medical facility. Vincent plans on living to be, I guess, 200 years old. But his son, Caleb, he's raising up. And this is a seriously awesome young man. And for those of you who know, who've been coming here a long time, it's only occasionally, and I say that, I don't usually stand in the pulpit and say, thus saith the Lord. I need to hear from God. I'm in the pulpit at Vincent's church. There's hundreds of people there. It's in the middle of this leadership conference, and God says to me, Caleb. He had a word for Caleb. Now, Rick starts sports academies. And I was talking to Rick. I said, Rick, man, I got a little bit of juice around here. I said, it would be so awesome if you could bring a sports academy in here, which he was all over it, especially when he seen the quality of Vincent. How Vincent is top notch. Our last day there Monday, he wanted to show us everything. He just wanted to, because I haven't been there in a long time. He wanted me to know, and you guys to know, that this is seriously good fruit that we're investing in. He's built houses for widows. It is uncanny what he's doing, man. For a 70-mile radius around him, man, it's like they just know him. He has ministered to so many people. It is unreal. It's unreal, man. So I said, Rick, man, there's a lot of young people here, a lot of kids, like Rick goes, I know, man. I said, well, maybe I can help this out. So I drop a thing, and the Lord says to me that Caleb's going to be the one to run it. So I say from the pulpit, I just stopped like mid whatever I was doing. I said, Caleb, the Lord's saying to you that you're going to start a sports academy here with Rick, and you're going to run it. You're going to build your team, blah, 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 blah. Rick was like, this is awesome, right? Well, 2 days ago, Vince messages me. Remember, we bought 38 acres. He says, Caleb's so on board with the International Sports Academy. The church is so on board. All the people around, Rick and Vincent, and they made a local pastors come to have a meeting with Rick just to prepare so he can make a presentation of what he does. And there had to be 10, 15 pastors showed up just to hear. So they're like excited, right? But where's it going to, what are we going to do? Well, we happen to have 38 acres. So they're already starting to they call it a soccer pit. We would call it a soccer field. They're going to build a soccer field. They're going to build volleyball courts. They're going to flatten the land, level the land. And Caleb's already got his team, and they already have their first soccer team. He showed me pictures. They got like 18 young men ready to play soccer. Rick's going to go there. Rick he'll do his thing, man. I'm telling you, he's uncanny. And that was Uganda in a nutshell. Amen? So then, next slide, we go into Kenya. The young man on the right is Kevin. That's my boy, Kevin. I love that kid, man, and I can't wait till he comes here. You're going to meet him. The girl in the middle, her name is Tamara. We call her Tamsi. She's really Rick's right-hand man in Nairobi and throughout there. She's a very smart, very slick young lady. She did all the traveling stuff for us. She booked everything. She just did everything. She handles the financial stuff. She does everything. And the dude with the hat, that's our boy Walter. He's the coolest driver I've ever met in the world. I don't know what's up with old Walter. When I first met him, I said, "Hey, Walter, how you doing? Nice hat." He goes, "Yeah, I'm from Texas." So I love this guy right off the bat. I love him. Well, he's got this card. This card is like get out of jail free card. I don't know where he got it. I don't know what it even is. And he also has a gun strap. He has a carry permit, which nobody gets carry permits in Nairobi, period. He got one, though, right? He's got one. And he's got this card that everywhere as we go, he just flashes the card. They just wave him through. I don't know what the card is. I don't know how he got the card, but I'll tell you this. When he brought me to the airport, because I'm leaving the team. I'm leaving Rick. I left a few days before Rick did. He drove me to the airport, Walter, and he drove us all kinds of places. So here's this, all the flights leaving to the U.S. leave late at night, 11:35 at night. There's this line of cars, right, dropping off people, like this line of cars. Well, here comes Walter. Just bypasses all the cars, pulls into the VIP parking lot with me, takes my bags out, says to me, "Don't say you're an economy." I said, "I ain't saying nothing, bro." Walks me right to the x-ray machine, puts my bag on the x-ray machine, says, "I love you, brother. Have a great trip," and he leaves. I'm in the airport. I didn't have to go through nothing. No checks, no nothing. Just the magic card. I said, "My man." So this is Walter. He's a really cool guy, and he loves Tamara with all his heart. He has a beautiful young daughter, a beautiful young family, and that girl in the middle is his girl, man. So next slide. So first day, right out of the blocks, we go to the worst spot I've ever been in my entire life. I've been to a lot of places, guys. I've seen a lot of bad stuff. I used to buy dope in Harlem. Harlem is like Walt Disney World compared to this place. This is the picture on the right is when we first pull up. Open the van, Walter's van, which Walter hated. Walter's got the top of the line Toyota, the biggest van. The seats actually recline in the back, and it sits 8. He hated driving his van down these roads, but he did. We get there, and the door opens, and this waft. And I'm just praying because I don't want to gag, if I'm being honest. The smell just hit me in the face. I'm like, "Lord, please, please don't let me," because how insulted would that be? I get out of the van and go, "Ooh," it would just be insulting as it could possibly be. So we just prayed. I made it through that about 10 minutes before your body kind of acclimates to everything. And, of course, we meet this pastor. His name is Pastor, how do you say his name? Wakisa. I got him written down. Wakisa. Pastor Wakisa, and he sees us, and Rick we know him because of Rick. Everywhere we go in Kenya, it's because of Rick. Rick is a rock star. I cannot reiterate it enough. I was so impressed with him. I'm 100 times prouder than I've ever been of him, and I've had lots of reason to be proud of him. But he is doing it, seriously. So this guy's big like this. He's a big dude, man, pastor. And Rick goes, okay, he's ready to roll, because Rick's like George. He's like George. He can't stop. He's always got to go. He's always moving. He's always doing something. His phone rings constantly. As soon as we landed, he goes and buys a track phone, a Kenyan phone, and it just rings and rings and rings and rings and rings. Everybody wants to meet him. Everybody wants to see him. So he's on the move, and big Pastor Wakisa says, no, we should have tea. And Rick says, yeah, no. We should have tea. So tea can mean tea, or it can mean a 25-course meal. It's anything in between, right? You don't know what tea means, but you know you're going to stop and have it. So they bring us into this building. That's his church, Pastor Wakisa, and there we are. So we're sitting in this room. As you can tell, it's just concrete. It's obviously not finished. That's it. There's no windows. There's no nothing. There's no doors. There's no windows. And we're sitting here waiting for tea. Next slide. Well, tea, in this case, was a meal, which was difficult because as we pulled up into this slum, there's chickens and there's goats still running around, but what are they eating, man? There's no grass. There's garbage. The chickens are all half feathered, ripped. They don't have feathers. They're very mangy looking. I'm like, oh man, I can't eat the chicken, man. I'm pretty good at that, but I don't want to get sick. And so they put this meal out. It was pretty good. A lot of fresh fruit. They had this cabbage, which I don't eat cabbage. This cabbage was killer. They put something in it, I don't know, but it was good. I ate cabbage. I couldn't eat the chicken. So we have this meal. And next slide. You see that big guy standing there on my left with the blue, that's Pastor Wakisa. Very quiet, very awesome spoken, very cool guy. And he's trying to build this ministry in the middle of this ridiculously bad place. Next slide. So the vegetables on the right and the chickens, see, he's a slick guy because there's nothing there. But he put on the roof of his church, he built raised beds, and they brought up dirt. So he made a garden on the roof, and he raised his chickens on the roof. Now, this is something very cool that you guys did. As I was talking to him, I became really good friends with him. I'll tell you, he sent me a message, and a pretty cool message. And their generator broke, and their water pump broke, so they can't pump water up on the roof, so they have to bring buckets up and water plants. And so we bought them a generator. You guys bought them a generator and a new water pump, and I gave him an extra $50 so he can buy more chickens. And he's doing it. The picture in the middle of that bed, that's his house. He gave up everything he had to start this ministry in this slum, and that's where him and his wife live, right in the middle. There's no windows. There's no rug. There's a concrete, dusty floor. There's that bed and some makeshift closet, and that's it. That's it. That's all he got. And he was doing it. The picture on the right is all the leaders that because he's like a bishop, and he's the big daddy there. And they all came to pray with us, to meet us, to see if we could partner with them. Awesome prayer meeting that we had with them, and then we started walking through the slum. Next slide. And there you have it. Kids. Always kids. The one second from the right, That's raw sewage going down the middle of the street. The one all the way to the right, if you could see, if you look hard, that's all demonic demon junk. There was some really wackos in that place. But we're walking through. If you notice, the kids next to the raw sewage, see them in their uniforms? They all have uniforms when you go to school over there. It's just the way it is. It's the culture. If you don't have a uniform, you're not going to school. That's why we adopt kids and help them. The $50 a month that some of you do, it buys uniforms. It helps them because they just can't go. It's just cultural. And so you see a lot of kids on the left, no uniforms. Well, they're not going to school. The ones next to the sewer, they go to school. So we start walking through this thing because this guy, which I learned, Kenyans lie. If they say, well, it's right over there. That could be right over there, or it could be 6 miles over there. Or I'll be there in a minute. It could be a minute, or it could be 4 hours that they show up. But that's how they are. Hakuna Matata, man. They just do what they do, man. But they do it real good, real well. Next slide. So we're walking through this thing, and look at this. This is a school in the middle of this ghetto, in the middle of this slum. That is just phenomenal, man. Those people, them guys that were sitting there that I said at the prayer meeting, these are guys. These are leaders in the community. They have schools. They have things. They are loving these kids. They are trying hard to help these kids have a life. There's a picture of me with some of the kids, and you see they all have their uniforms on. They're in this next slide. Here's the school. We went to this school. These pictures don't do it justice. The guy in the red shirt in the middle, he's one of the teachers. Of course, there's Rick with the kids. You just would walk into like an alleyway, and there's nothing, man. There's just these like wooden shack with rooms. That's the classrooms. And there's all these kids, though, man. All these kids. And there's these people that are just serving God. And by the way, every kid that you see, these are all Christian schools. These ain't public schools. These are all Christian schools. I tried to put on video here. I don't think we have a video for this one of the kids singing, just singing praises to Christ, just singing about Jesus. They just love the Lord. It's heart-wrenching. It's just heart-wrenching, man. So we start walking. Next thing. Oh, there's a bathroom, by the way. That was the best bathroom in that slum that I seen. So we start walking because one of the guys, a couple years ago, Rick, an ISA group, has helped them start a micro farm. So they grow them herbs. What's it called? Yes, microgreen farm. And he wanted to show us. He wanted to show us. He wanted to show Rick. And it was just over there. And it was about 3 miles. So we walked, and so we're walking along these railroad tracks, and I'm talking with Pastor Wakisa. And the whole time there, I'm challenging these guys. And I think that's why I made an impression with them. Not being braggadocious, but it just is what it is. And so I'm trying to disciple this guy, and I said, my man, I said, I totally get it. I said, you look at somebody like me, I'm from America. Monetarily, we're head and shoulders above. We can't even compare. I'm uber rich compared to any of the people here. I said, I understand that. I said, but the Bible doesn't say that it's different for you than it is for me. I said in Matthew 28, the Great Commission says that, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and even the ends of the earth. I said, okay, it's easy for you to look at me and say, okay, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and now I'm at the ends of the earth. I said, but God wants you to do the same thing. And I said to him, my man, I said, you will never you will never test the resources of God until you attempt the impossible. I said, God wants you to go. You were telling me about this work in Ethiopia. Why aren't you going to Ethiopia? I said, you need to go to Ethiopia. So I was trying to disciple this guy. I was trying to get him out a different mindset, which maybe was really arrogant of me. I don't know. But I really felt like God wanted to tell these guys, you do what you have. You do what you can. You do what you have. I'm trying to get him out of the pauper mentality. I mean, in the midst of that, though. In the midst of that. So I'm like really going out on a limb here, right? So anyway, we're walking down that railroad track. I had a lot of other pictures. And, I do have a really good discerning spirit, especially when I'm in that element. So my spirit is zooming. Like there's a lot of demonic stuff happening here. There's a lot of craziness. And I'm just praying. And I'm talking to this big dude, and we're just walking. Really, just a nice slow walk. We're walking together. And alongside that railroad track, like you can't really see it, is another open sewer, disgusting thing that there's occasionally a bridge over it. And I'm walking, and there's like this local drug addict bar, something shack. And this dude comes out of that shack, and he sees me, man, and he comes right at me. And listen, the demonic stuff is real. The spiritual stuff is real. This was right out of like a Netflix movie. This dude's face changed. His countenance, his everything changed. He's growling at me. He's coming right at me, man. He wants to kill me, I could tell. My man Kevin, who's right next to me, because he thought that he had to watch me. He quickly learned that, man, you just stay by me, Kevin. I got you. You know what I mean? But so he's walking with me, and this guy is screaming like bad stuff at me in Swahili. Kevin can understand it. He didn't want to tell me what he was saying. I knew it wasn't good. And I just rebuked that guy in the name of Jesus, man. I put him right down. He just went down, turned around, and walked away. And we just kept walking. Now, that night, I'm not like no superhero here. I'm not trying to come off of that. That night, I'm on the phone with my wife. I need prayer. I'm scared. I'm all kinds of stuff. I'm all kinds of stuff, man. But my point is, even in a place like that, this is hell, man. This is the worst place I've ever been, ever. Power of Jesus, man. The power of Jesus rises to the top. It's all I had. It's all I had. I just rebuked him in the name of Jesus. We talked about this in men's Bible study. There's that name, man. That name. There's something about that name, the song says. And we put that guy to rest. Next slide. Look at this. Look at her. She lives there. That's where she lives. These guys are doing it, man. Like, we can't even fathom. That girl has hope. That girl has hope because of these handful of people that are just crazy enough to trust God. In the midst of we complain. We can't handle life. Poor me. Look at her. Look at her face, man. She just loves the Lord, man. It's just next slide. So from there, we're heading up to the Maasai. This lady right here, that's next to the older woman, she gave us. They're called sukas. them. That's what the Maasai wear. They wrap themselves with. That's a thing. That's her kids. Well, there's a lady named Eva Butler. She was the reason we know about her, me and Jody, is because she come out of Elam. In fact, Nancy Clark is related to her. It's her niece. This was the first convert in the Maasai land, and Eva Butler went there as a white lady and to minister to the Maasai, and she saved this woman from FGM. I don't want, you guys know what FGM is? So I don't want, is there kids here? Do you know what that is? You don't? Well, it's female genitalia mutilation. So she saved her, and she was the first one. Her name is Emily. My wife has a necklace, a beaded necklace on her and her wrist. It was my honor to meet this lady. We talked about the Dodgewaits. We talked about Nancy. She wanted. I texted my wife about. Told Nancy. Nancy texted her back, and I showed her a picture of Jody, and she took her necklace off, and she took her bracelet off, holy bracelet off, and she said, "Give this to your beautiful wife." And so there's a gift from this lady. Incredible what she has done, but she was the first one to bring the gospel. Eva Butler was the first one, and this was the first convert, and it went from there. Now, the reason I'm getting so choked up is because I know what's next, right? Next slide. Oh, on the way, I had to show your boy still like your boy. We're stopped at a stop sign, and this lady, see the L on the back of that motorcycle? That means learner. That's how they do it over there. So this girl, unbeknownst to me, there was a girl, but she's a girl. So we're going to turn right. She pulls up to turn left, and she almost drops her motorcycle. So I jumped out of the car, saved the day. Anyway. Picked her back up. Anyway, next thing. So we're heading up to the Maasai. This girl on the right with the glasses is Tamsi. I introduced you to her earlier. This girl next to her is a girl named Stella. Stella's an absolute star. A star. When she was, I think, 12 years old, she was sold. Some sleazebag paid a dowry to her father, some cows. She's a Maasai, and she was going to have FGM done to her, and she was going to be a depository and a baby maker for this guy for the rest of her life until he was done with her. That was going to be her life. She escaped. She escaped as a little kid. She walked through the night. About almost 8 miles, she walked and she found this rescue center. And she waited at the gate all night until the rescue center let her in, and she literally saved herself. We're on our way up. Some random pictures, donkeys. I didn't see no lions, tigers, and bears. It's not the rainy season. The herd follows the rain. The carnivores and the predators follow the herds. If you go there in March, I'm right on the Masai Mara border and the Serengeti Plain, when I'll show you later. If we go in March, the animals will be there. They're not there now, but they're coming. So these are just random. So, we're driving up there and realize, hey, we're not in Kansas anymore, right? So next slide. This is just a hotel that we stayed in. That's out the back door because it was a 2-day trip to get out there. That was just a picture I took. That was the morning. How about that tree? Ain't that a cool picture? And there's the road. That really does not describe the road. We're heading into Maasai land now. We're heading, and there's potholes that are 4 foot deep. That road is like unreal. Thank you, man. And we're heading up. Next slide. We cross, there's cows. Of course, there's cows. We start seeing lots of cows. And they're just wandering around. Me being a New Yorker, I'm like, ain't you afraid someone's gonna steal your cows? You don't steal no Maasai's cow. Let me tell you the Maasai believe. The Maasai believe God created the world, God created the Maasai, and God created the cows for the Maasai. If you have a cow, you stole it from the Maasai. They have no problem stealing back their cow from you. If you steal one of their cows, they kill you. Period. They stab you with them spears and they beat you with them clubs. You do not steal a Maasai cow. Nobody does. So we're heading up. We had to cross a couple riverbeds. It was hilarious. That one riverbed on the right, when we came down into that, I don't know how I didn't take a picture of it. There was a little, like a 175 motorcycle, which are everywhere, with a 175 motorcycle strapped to it, tied on it. He's driving like this with a motorcycle behind him on the motorcycle, driving out of the riverbed. I'm like, what the flip? That sign next to that sign says, I can't get it here. I don't know why. It says, this village is a open, defecation-free village. In other words, we do not defecate in the bush. We defecate in the latrine. So they don't take number 2 in the bush. They go into the cows do, the animals do, everybody else do, but the people don't. I thought that was kind of funny. So anyway, we're heading up to the Maasai. Again, another picture. Obviously, next slide, we are in nowheres. We are nowheres. There's nothing. There's just that. Pretty cool. Next slide. The guy that you see me with, that's Pastor Haran, or Aaron. It's spelled H-A-R, like Haran, but they pronounce it Aaron. That's his house. I took a picture of it. That's his house. That first picture, that's my brother, man. He every day, I hear from him every day. He blesses us. He prays for us. You guys, he's praying for every one of you guys every day. And he is the Maasai warrior. He is the guy. He killed the lion. He really killed the lion by himself. He's got when you do it, you get branded on your head here. He's got the dent scar on his head. He's one of the last ones who killed the lion because they outlawed killing lions for the Maasai. That's his house. The buildings in his place are all made out of sheet metal roofs. Very, very humble. But they do it. It works, right? Next slide. I just wanted to see how they worship. That's Pastor Horan. Look. You know I was doing that, right? Next slide. So the next slide, this is sort of like their compound, right? This is where we're staying. Now the picture on the left has like a path with the stones around it. I put that there because to the left of that is something that's really, 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 really something. That thing in the middle, that shack with the smoke coming out, that's their kitchen. There's no chimney, there's no nothing, but there's a fire in the middle of it. The women are in there for like an hour and a half cooking. I went in there for 30 seconds. My eyes burnt so bad, I couldn't stand it. They're in there cooking. The little kid at the wheelbarrow, that's family life. They are so family oriented. Nobody owns nothing. It's everybody's. When I said, man, you don't worry about your cows? He goes, no, he has this bull. This is how I met the bull. One day I just walked out to the end of the property. There was like this road. It was early in the morning, and I look, and here comes this herd of cows. But like in the middle, down behind them, there's like this one cow that's like head and shoulders over all the cows, right? So I'm like, holy cow, this guy's big. So like I'm getting out of these bulls' way, you know what I mean? I'm just over here. Anyway, but it stopped because there was a watering thing over there, unbeknownst to me. And I'm like, shoot, man. Seen this bill? He goes, yeah, that's my bull. I said, that's your bull? He goes, yeah. I said, ain't you worried? Nah. He goes, he just leaves. He'll be back. I said, he just leaves and be back. He goes, yeah. He goes, finds the girls. He goes, takes care of my neighbors, because, they got to impregnate in order to have milk, right? So he just lets his bull wander. He finds whatever cows in heat. He don't care. He'll be back. No biggie. They just share everything. Everybody owns, but nobody owns. It's glorious. The picture all the way on the right, that's typical. The ladies, they just cooking. They're just doing everything. Next slide. That one picture, there's goats. There's the only thing you'll see as far as a fence. It's just bushes. And then they cut a door and they just put broken sticks. That's the gate. And keeps the goats in. There's some cows, but there's cows. There's cows all over the place. They got cows. The lady there, I just took a picture of her because there's a typical Maasai woman. And then there's Rick. Now this lady here with Rick, Rick was instrumental in her being saved from FGM. She was broken. She was jacked. They came to, and Pastor Aaron, this is what he does. Today, she's married. She has that baby. And what do you think that baby boy's name is? Rick. There's at least 4 little baby Ricks running around. Rick is no joke, man. Rick is the real deal, man. He is the real deal. Next slide. So that path that I told you about, that path leads to this. It leads to you can't really see it. It's El Maraba Rescue Center, Maasai Land, Kenya, and the church, Christ Community Church International, El Maraba. So Pastor Aaron, he pastors this, and he also runs this rescue center. Again, he is the most humble, sweet, caring guy, but in his heart, he's a Maasai warrior. He's the real deal. He's no joke. And he goes and gets these girls, man. He goes and gets them. And next picture. Them 4 girls there, there's 3 girls that he saved recently. They're living in the rescue center. It's pretty phenomenal. There's the rescue center. It's sparse, but it's better than what they had, and it's all that he has to do it, and he does it. The next slide, please. That girl standing there with Rick, that girl, they went and rescued. Rick also was instrumental in that, I think. And when they went to get her, the father chased Pastor Aaron because he lost his dowry. I think, I'm not sure. No, I don't think so. But anyway, this girl was rescued by Pastor Aaron. Her life changed. I took a random picture in the middle. That's her teaching Sunday school now under that tree. She was doomed. Her life was doomed, man, doomed. And now she's an active member in the church. She loves the Lord with all her heart. She's now a Sunday school teacher. I took a picture of that girl. In the pink, because, go to the next slide. You see all these kids? These kids will never have to worry about that. Will never have to worry about being sold. Will never have to worry about being abused. Will never have to do nothing because of this guy, Pastor Aaron. And Rick is also involved with these people. I was like overwhelmed all these kids, they are safe, man. These kids are safe, and they all being raised in the things of God. They all love Jesus. All these people, he has impacted, like you can't even imagine what he has done. Next slide. Look at the kids. Look at them. Just look at these kids, man. It was overwhelming because I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm just like blessing this guy because their plight. What's their plight? Especially the girls. The girls they got no chance. I could show you on my phone if you want to see it. I didn't want to put it up here because it's just, it's difficult to watch of a Maasai tribe that's not too far from where he is. And it's the ceremony when they go get the girls. And the screaming kids, the screaming of these kids, how the mothers even, because they're sold, just take them and hold them on their back and drag them off with the guy holding their legs behind them. The guy's just sending them in. The girls are weeping and screaming because they know their plight. Their plight it's over. It's over. It's still happening today, even though it's outlawed. But in the Maasai, it's still happening right now. And this guy's doing the best he can to help it. Can you go to the next thing? This soccer team that we were there and Rick gave them new uniforms. They're part of the ISA. He started one there in the Maasai. Every one of them girls were rescued. Every one of them girls were rescued from from having FGM done to them, and it's a wrap for them. And now here they are. Did we put yeah, go to the next slide. They play the same music all the time. Look at them though. Next slide. It was just awesome to see these girls. What they could have been to what they are now because of this. The next slide is just me being stupid, taking pictures of Maasai people. Next slide, look at the kids. These kids have hope now. These kids have a future. They have parents that actually love them, that are God-fearing parents, that raise them up in the things of God. On a social scale, they're like below the ground compared to us. But like I said, they're head and shoulders above us when it comes to what really matters. They're doing it so right. Next picture, Kevin. That's Kevin with the soccer team with their new uniforms. Kevin's also a really awesome soccer player. Kevin grew up in a slum that I showed you earlier. Kevin now lives in the El Dorado, so the slums are really near and dear to his heart. God delivered him from that life. In fact, it was so bad one day they were sleeping and the whole wall fell in of his house. The wall just collapsed in and caved in on them. That's how they lived. Horrible, horrible life. He's just serving God. Next picture is just your boy preaching at I don't know if that was a Sunday. I don't know, it wasn't Sunday. That was during a conference. They all have conferences. And so we spoke there. The next picture, look at this. These are 3 women that Rick was definitely involved in, seeing them rescued. I had a before picture of the girl all the way on the left in the red, mostly red shirt with the yellow thing. I don't know why I didn't put it in there. She was busted up, man, and now she's teaching Sunday school. The girl on the right is the girl who has Rick Jr. there. The girl in the middle is another sweetheart of a kid who has been rescued and has a real chance at life. The next picture is just, the Maasai maybe and whatever. Let me tell you what happened here, though. So I think I was the second white guy they have ever seen, right? Rick was the first. And I think I was just crazy enough to ask him, And I'll be honest, my motive was just to get a picture for my office. I just wanted to get dressed up in the garb and so I could have a picture for my office. Unbeknownst to me, and really unexpectedly, was that Pastor Aaron was more honored, I think, that I asked than I was of them doing it. And so when I asked him, I said, hey, man, you think you could dress me up in some garb, I can get a picture? And he was like, this crazy Mazunga, he's nuts, man. You know what I mean? And I guess I was crazy enough to ask. And so he asked me, you want to become a Maasai? I said, yeah, yeah. Yeah, he goes, and he looks at me, and he says, well, I have to pray. I said, okay, I figured, maybe I overstepped my bounds or something. He says, no, I got to pray and ask God what your Maasai warrior name will be. And I said, oh, shoot, man, I'm not killing no lion. I'm thinking in my head, I'm not killing no lion. I ain't drinking no blood. I just want the picture for the wall. If I'm being honest, that's all I want. He goes to walk away. Then he stops, and he looks at me, and he says, I promise you, tomorrow you will be a Maasai warrior. And he walks away, and I'm like, holy cow, this dude is serious, man. He's serious, right? He's serious. Comes back later, and he says, tomorrow we give you your name. And mine, he says, your name is Mainati. I said, Mainati? He says, yeah. He says, it means the one who stands out in front and never turns. I said, oh, shoot. Right? So the next day we had the conference, and I like to think of myself as that guy, to be honest with you. He prayed about it. It was an honor. And so the next day, this guy, Paul, it's time to get duded up, man. He takes me. He's going to dress me. Made me strip down. I thought, man, he just put like a blanket over me and give me a spear, man. That's all I want. Nah, they did the whole thing. Stripped me down, my sock, shoes, everything. I had to have open shoes. He tied my shoes for me. He dressed me in the whole thing, put the thing on me, put the bracelets on me. And Pastor Aaron, he gave me his spear. The spear that I'm carrying is the spear that he used to kill the lion with, right? And his stick, because they all have sticks because they're herders, right? Because they got to whack the cows, they got to whack the goats. Well, only certain people have black sticks. They all have sticks, but most of them are just brown, wood color. Some of them they stain, and that's the warriors. That's the guys. I have that stick. He gave me his stick. It's in my office right now. And we're walking around, man. So there I am. Yeah, take a picture. Well, now he walks me through the villages. Like there's these dung huts that they make with the thatch roofs. Like that's what I'm coming out of. Me and him walking, and all these people are like, what the flip is this guy? This is white guy. I'm dressed up in all this stuff. I'm walking with the boy. He's the man. I'm walking with him. And we went through. But one time, we came out of that thing, and when we went in, you stick your spear in the ground. So you got the blade on one side. The other side's sharp, too, though, like a point. Because this is a serious weapon, and it probably weighs about 20 pounds. Right? This is no joke. I mean, you got to stick a lion with that thing, And so he sticks his spear, and I stick his spear in the ground, and we go inside, and then we come out. Well, when he comes out, he immediately grabs his spear. I just took like one step past the spear. Hey, he says to me, a warrior never leaves his spear. Like he meant that. I said, oh, shoot, sorry. Because when I stuck it in the ground and went in I'm like, I get the spear out of the ground, and off we go. He's trotting me through the village. He's introduced me to everybody. Here's Mainati. He's the new Maasai warrior, blah, 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 blah. And so we go. But I want to read something that he sent me. He's messaged me every day. one day he messages me and he says, it's hard. He says to me, look, I got another guy. If you see these names that I have of these people that are all from Africa texting me, he says to me one day, oh, and they all text me, watching your president's inauguration. They're like cuckoo for Trump over there. It's like ridiculous. But he just prayed. He says to me one day, he says to me this. He says, hello, my friend. I'm so thankful for our friendship and for your visit, for you taking the time to visit my village and my family. You have no idea how much your visit meant to me. I loved every minute of our time together. Thanks from the bottom of my heart. God bless you. I'm like, what the flip, man? So I told him how you have no idea how you have impacted my life, blah, blah, blah. Then he says this. Now, this is a Maasai warrior. Keep that in your mind. This is the real deal. This isn't no fake guy like me. This is a real deal. He would never admit this to anybody. But he says, our tears just rolled down when we were praying for you yesterday night. We love you, man of God. You're indeed a great warrior. What the heck? So I'm like, okay. And I've gotten a text every day from him, just praying for my wife, praying for my church, just praying for you guys, asking questions, blah, 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 blah. So, but then he sent me this because I asked him. Because I think that it certainly ain't about me getting a stupid picture on my wall. It's about these girls. This is the most important thing I've ever seen. These girls are getting mutilated. They're getting raped at 10. They're getting kidnapped. It's heart-wrenching, man. It's heart-wrenching. But this cat, because he's no joke, he has the balls. He'll go get him. Like, he's going to get him, man. If he hears, he's going. And but this is something I had said to you earlier, Sharon, something for the mission board to consider. And again, we'll run everything through Rick. I just, I don't know how to do anything. But he sent me this. He's very articulate. He's very smart. And he's the real deal. He says, he wanted me to know what's going on. He said, the Lamarba Rescue Center is to improve the literacy, health, and economic well-being of Maasai women and their families in Kenya through the education of girls in their communities. Currently, 58 out of 100 Maasai girls in Kenya enroll in primary school. 5 of them will graduate and go on to secondary school. Less than 30 in 100 will complete secondary school. 8 out of 10 will be circumcised, which you know what that means, and married off before they're 18 years old. 8 out of 10. Persistent poverty and cultural belief systems perpetuate the subjugation of women, denying them basic human rights. Right to education, right to choose her husband, right to choose if and when to marry, right to control what happens to her body, right to voice an opinion in family matters, right to inherit land. A woman needs 2 things before she can stand up for her rights: self-esteem and self-reliance. Education can give her both. That is what the Lamarba Rescue Center is all about. There are many ways to contribute. A donation to the General Scholarship Fund will help Lamarba Rescue Center respond to urgent needs, such as intervening in the marriage of a young Maasai girl who would have to drop out of school or provide school fees for a student who has to drop out of school because a prolonged drought destroys her chances of finishing her education. A small donation will buy shoes, a uniform, or supplies for a student, or pay tuition for a needy girl to go to school. Contributions for Lamarba workshops support our community education projects to reduce early marriages, FGM, and the spread of HIV. Sponsorship ensures that a Maasai girl will be able to complete her education and achieve economic independence. The rescue center is home to more than a dozen girls who have escaped early marriage and now cannot return to their childhood homes. So I think that that's some serious something we need to think about and getting involved in, and maybe we support them on a monthly basis. Again, I'm going to leave it in the mission board's hands. I'm not, but I want to say I highly endorse it. I'll find out from Rick probably an easier way, because he has a way to get money over there. He can do it through ISA. He has all that already set up. You can't mail a check because it'll take 2 years to get there. I don't know how, but again, I want the mission board to talk about it and see if that's something that you think we should get involved with. Amen? Next slide. This is Stella. Did I tell you about Stella? I think I was. So we used her car. This was goodbye. She cried like a baby. I'm still in contact with her through social media. She's no joke. In fact, I wish I would have stayed. As much as I miss my wife and missed you guys I wish I would have stayed till Tuesday. I flew out on Friday. I didn't get home till God knows when. But because they went to her village that she escaped from. Now, usually you're done. You can never go back. But there is one way you can go back. If you can find somebody in the village that will represent you, and then you can go back and make whatever, I don't know how you make amends, but you have to have a representative from the village, and you can make amends. And she's past the age now where that's going to happen to her. And in fact, she has her own business now, and it's pretty cool. And Rick went to that village. He was the first white guy to ever sleep there, ever. And it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see. All right, the next slide. So this guy right here, this is Peter. I know we're going late. Are you interested? All right. This cat, I got to say, when he first showed up, man, I was like, who's this cat think he is, man? I didn't like him. And man, was I wrong about this dude. This dude is the real deal, man. He is so cool. In fact, the picture of me and him with all the balls, I just want to say, before we went over there, I took $2,000 of the money that you guys raised, and we sent it over there, and we had 100 soccer balls made. They were waiting for us when we got there. So, and Rick was in charge of who got balls and stuff. We just paid for them. And so this guy we gave a bunch of balls for, but let me tell you what happened. Next slide. So 4 years ago, Rick gave that guy 2 balls. Two soccer balls. In 4 years, from them 2 soccer balls, he's built an orphanage, and he has planted 3 churches that are now have over 100 people in each church. 2 soccer balls. 2 soccer balls. This is the orphanage. We visited this orphanage. Look at them. I mean, what life do they have? You know, who knows what happened to their mother and father? Nobody knows. If Peter didn't take them, what do they have? He did this. There's the next slide. Look at that picture of me. How cool is that picture? That was something. And look at the place. Look, he was able to secure this land. I don't know if he leases it or what, but he has a staff there that cook for these kids, teach these kids, care for these kids. 2 soccer balls. 2 soccer balls. Next slide. They dug a well. They have water now. They have fresh water. My man Rick, though, he has like ADD. If he could be talking to like the king of Kenya, and if a little girl or a little kid walks by, he just is gone. He's got to go to the kid. He just loves kids, and he has impacted millions of kids. That's not an exaggeration. hear what I say, it's not an exaggeration. It's incredible. Now, this is only, I just seen what he does in Kenya. I think he's in Liberia, Ghana. He's in 8 countries in Africa, and he's in India. This is just what I've seen in one country. So I don't even know what he's got going on in them other countries. But if it's anything like this, it's just over the top. So that's the orphanage. This guy I'm sitting next to, that's my man Steve. He was our driver when we went to this area. It was Katali, and then up in that area. He's a pastor. He's the coolest guy I ever met, man. This guy, me and him hit it off. I tell you this is how it started for us. He has the same kind of spirit like I do. Even though he's a pastor, he's still a knucklehead. And we're driving down the road. We're headed somewhere, and I see this dead animal on the side of the road. I said, "Oh, what's that, a dead goat?" No, I said, "What's that, a dead dog?" He said, "No." No. I said, "What's that, a dead goat?" He said, "No, it's a dead dog." I said, "Oh, really?" He goes, "Don't worry, the Chinese will come get it." I was like, what? So we start cracking up. He goes, "Yeah." He says, "You see all these roads we're driving now?" He goes, "The Chinese came. They paved all these roads. All the dogs disappeared." He said, "If you want to keep your dog, you had to hide it in your house, man." He said, so I'm like, "Come on, man, that ain't cool." He's laughing, and he's got this infectious laugh. And he, like me, he loves laughing at himself. He loves laughing at his jokes. So he's telling these really racist jokes. You know what I mean? And he's cracking up, like out loud. And so I just fell in love with him. So the next, hey, if you can't laugh at yourself, man, I hate the way we are today. I'll be honest with you. I long for Archie Bunker and George Jefferson. I do, but them days are long gone, but not over there. So anyway, we go to the first place we go is to one of the churches that Peter has planted. That's this thing here. Now, we said we were coming. Rick has a thing there, like he wants a soccer thing. And we were supposed to be there, I think, like 12:31, something like that. Well, we didn't get there to 2 because it's just stuff going on. Well, there was 160 people waiting there since 10 o'clock in the morning. We got there at 2, and we show up. Here they are. Next slide. These are all these people. So Rick says, they want somebody to preach. Rick says, "Well, go ahead, Frank." That's my boy Rick. So I said, "Okay." So I gave a message. But the really cool thing is, again, man, remember what I said earlier? I'm challenging these people to not look at your circumstance. Do not let your circumstances dictate what God wants to do in your life. Trust God, trust His Word, and it's as applicable it is for me, it's as applicable for you. So, I'm just encouraging them. So I did that again here, and there's a video. Next slide. I guess you're going to make that work somehow. So this is the altar call I had after I preached at this church, and about 50 young men responded to this altar call. He's translating for me right now. Peter, you can stop that. And the cool thing about that, though, is he that following Sunday, he texted me, Peter, which he's texted me pretty much every other day or something. He said, "Frank, we're so grateful. All the men now are coming to church. All these guys that responded to this altar, 50 or so guys. The church is growing. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's a tent. That's it. Next slide. But that's me and the pastor and his wife, and they have this church in the bush. They're clearing out land right now. Their hope is to build a building, but they're in a tent. 160 people show up. They walk miles to get to church, and there they are. The next pictures is the second church. We go there. The skinny guy in the red pants, that's the pastor of this church. Rick spoke there, if you can see. You see this? I was watching Rick preach, and you see the picture with the woman there with the light blue. One more slide. The woman with the light blue suit on, and I watched her like she just with bated breath, or however they say that, on bated breath, on every word that was coming out of Rick's mouth, man. They just want the Lord. They just want him so bad. And when they worship, it's over the top. Next slide. Then from there, we went to a school. This lady is, what was her name? Evelyn? What was her name, Jude? Yeah. Yeah, Pastor Evelyn. Principal Evelyn. Rick has a big ISA thing. I hate saying that. ISA thing. And this is a school. This lady they love her. She loves them. Again, it's a school. By the way, in the schools in Africa, you know what you do every lunch period? You exercise. It ain't like here where you just get fat and fat and fat and eat donuts and Twinkies. They exercise, and they don't, I'm not talking exercise, they run. And they run miles. They run for the entire, if it's 45 minutes, they run for 45 minutes. I mean, then they eat. Then they just eat quick and back to school. As you can see, the uniforms in the back, that's another, I'm just trying to show you what Rick did. Next slide, look at that kid. That kid just took my heart away. Are you behind me? Yeah, look at that kid. A sweetheart. Next slide. When we left the orphanage, I said to myself, we got to buy some chocolate and some candy for them kids, man. So I made them go to the store. I bought a bunch of chocolate. I bought a bunch of lollipops. You guys bought a bunch of chocolate and a bunch of lollipops. And we went back and we handed out chocolate and lollipops to the orphanage. I mean, it was just, you see the kid in the middle, look at her with a little piece of chocolate. And that's the lady handing out chocolate. Anyway, next slide. On the way, we found out, well, I think Rick knew about it, but this is a Sudanese refugee camp. You see that guy in the red shirt? His name is something Short. His last name's Short. Look at him. He's from the same tribe as Manute Bol. Anybody know Manute Bol, basketball player, Manute Bol? Manute Bol, where he's from, he's it. He's a god. This is Manute Bol's, he's from the same thing. That guy, Pastor John, or Bishop John, which again, see how he's dressed and the way he looked? I was like, who's this dude? I judged so many books by their cover. It was pathetic. This guy, this was such a divine appointment because about 2 years ago, this girl that worked with Rick, she went into Sudan and she can't get out. She's been trapped in Sudan for 2 years with really no hope. She's actually given up hope to get out. Well, this guy, Bishop John, he has a connection to get people out of Sudan. Rick said, hey, I have this girl in Sudan. She's trapped. She can't get out. He said, I'll get her out. So hopefully this girl, this sweet girl who's been served, she needs to come back to Nairobi. This guy's going to get her out. So, and again, next slide. Now, just stay there. Stay where you are. Rick gave there's an International Sports Academy thing that he's starting out with the Sudanese. Who knows? Maybe he's going to go into Sudan. Be pretty hard. That's not a place you just wander into. Anyway, the next slide. Now I'm showing you this because Rick went there I didn't really need to be here, but I did need to be here. This was our last place that we went to. It was up in El Dorado. If I ever moved to Africa, I would move to El Dorado. It's known as the breadbasket of Kenya. It's plush. It's nice. The cities, it's very modern, but then there's also, Africa's the land of extremes. You can be in a land where, they take your order at the restaurant digitally, and, and then next thing you know, you're in the bush, and, an hour later, it's the land of extreme. We went there because Rick, this guy here, his name is Dan Lacavo. His father is a guy named Joseph Lacavo. Don Richter, years ago, Yeah, years ago they did a thing called Prayer Mountain. Some of you guys might know about that. Well, anyway, this is Joseph LaCavo's church now. It's about 2,000 people. I mean, they're killing it. And Dan is the guy. They were kind of apprehensive to get hooked up with Rick, this white guy bringing in this sports thing, because they got their thing. They're going on there. But they heard about Rick, and now they're really impressed with Rick, so they wanted to know Rick. So this kid it would be the guy. He's the youth minister. A sports thing would be that. So we went there. Rick went there. This guy Dan had 3 other young men that are going to run this sports academy that they want to do now. And so we met with these 3 young men and Dan, and I gave a little bit of input. I was able to sit in the thing. But Rick did 90% of it was his gig. And we just were there. But I knew about Prayer Mountain because around 20 years ago, my mother, my Uncle Mike and Vicky, my sister Jamie and Rob went to Prayer Mountain. At the time, it was a mountain. That's all it was. And at the very top, they leveled this land, and it was a prayer place. And they would truck up this mountain, and they would pray over the area, El Dorado, and they, for God to move. About 5 years ago, I think, Rick, if you're listening, you can correct me. Rick was there with this young man. They had bulldozed, they had blasted the mountain because they were thinking about making some kind of thing. That's only 5 years ago. The next slide. That's Joseph LaCavo. I sent a picture to my uncle. I sent a picture to Don Richter. I said, Joseph says hello. He wants to come to this church. We had a great meeting with him. He remembered my mom. It was a really awesome thing. Next slide. This is Dan and his wife Maureen. These are incredible people. They just got it going on. Next slide. This is what Prayer Mountain looks like today. So when we went there, I was just overwhelmed by, next slide please, by the fact that 20 years ago, my mom was up there and she helped pray this thing into existence. My mom, my uncle, my aunt, my brother-in-law, my sister, a lot of other people. And now this is what they got going on this hill. They have a school that they have to expand because there's too many people up there. That big brown area, that's a soccer field. It hasn't rained in a while, so the grass died. Tennis courts, all this stuff. I was overwhelmed by the fact that my mom was there. This is totally for me, might not mean anything to you, but that my mom was there. And she was one of the first people to pray for that with Don Richter. Me and my wife, we knew about Prayer Mountain, like our whole married, 20-something years ago when they went there. We were married at the time. So, we would think about Prayer Mountain, and here it is now, come to fruition. And they're doing it, and now Rick's going up there to plant an ISA team, and I just look forward to seeing. Right after that, next slide, we flew out on that thing. There's Vinny. He's ticketing cars in Nairobi, and I'm like, can't get away from them traffic guys. And the next guy I showed my son. There's a barber. And go to the next slide. Listen to this right here. Can you play that, please?
Thank you, Costas Church.
Can you do like this? Let's talk about
Listen.
Thank you, Costas Church.
Again.
Thank you, Costas Church.
Hamwezi kuongeza
Thank you, Crossroads Church. So I just want to say thank you from me. Thanks for trusting me on this. Thanks for letting me. I'm gone for almost the whole month of January. I mean, my wife and Vinny, they certainly handled the pulpit. I mean, I wasn't worried about that. Thank you for all the money that was sown into this trip. I came home with nothing, money-wise. I just want to say thanks, man. Kenya has stolen my heart. I'm telling you, it's stolen my heart. I want to go every year. I'm going every year. one way or another. But again, I'm so grateful to Vincent and what he has been able to accomplish, and we're a part of that. I'm so grateful to Rick to allow me to come and tag along with him, man, and it was so awesome, man, to be used the way we were. I'm so grateful for the friendships that I have. Just during the service, five guys from Africa texted me to say, we're praying for you guys, praying for your family, we love you. They're praying for you, trust me, they're praying for you. And most of all, I want to just thank the Lord. I want to thank the Lord for what he's doing. He's at work in this world, man. But I just hope that we as a people can really see, man, that we ain't got it that bad. You know, we complain and we murmur. Some people left. They couldn't even hang out and listen to the end of this. You know, it's just ridiculous. We have people that can't even handle life. You have a place to live, you have a car, you have a job, you have clothes, you have food, you have so much to be thankful for, and you complain and murmur. They have nothing to be thankful for, and they can't stop praising God and worshiping the Lord for all that he's done and all that, because that's all they got. And he's more than enough. I mean, that's what I take away from this trip. I'm changed forever. You know what I mean? I'm changed forever because I know I'm pathetic sometimes. If I can't find a remote, I lose my mind. And my perspective has changed. I hope that watching this maybe changes some of you guys' perspective. You know, that we are blessed. We are blessed, man. Abundantly, incredibly blessed. And again, I don't know why. I'll never apologize for the blessings of God. But sometimes I have to ask, man, Lord, why us? Because they blow us away. You know, they're the people you should be blessing. And yet here we are. So I hope going in the future, as we walk this thing out in the future together, and you know, I hope when the time arises, when it's time for you to be a blessing, that it's real easy to do that. And when that time comes when you want to complain, or you want to murmur, or you want to get into the poor me, I can't that you remember, man, I got it pretty good. I got it pretty good, Lord. I just want to worship you and thank you. So there you go. That was my trip, condensed. If you want to ask any questions, I have plenty of more pictures. Anything you want to ask, anything you want to do. So thanks for listening, guys. Now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you, be gracious to you, lift up his countenance to you, and give you peace. And all God's blessed people said, Amen, man. Thank you, guys.